Growing up, I saw one dream, and that was the NRL dream. In those cultures, it's success and winning. That is the only goal.
You could tell from a young age just how determined he was. Like, he's that sort of personality that he's not going to let himself fail.
Now here's Bateman! He crashes over for his first NRL try.
So I got my dream, and I thought, oh, this isn't what I thought it would be. I was earning $400,000 a year, and I couldn't afford a lollipop.
Bateman's in again.
I was the best liar in the world. I built this house of cards, and I was really good at it until it all came crumbling down.
Luke definitely didn't want people to know that he had the gambling addiction. He was very good at hiding it from family, friends, and the team.
All right, my first ever TikTok video was loved books my entire life.
Books 100% saved Luke's life. He's just found this passion that he's willing to share with everybody.
Love fantasy. Fantasy's my main go-to.
For someone that's an addict, like, it's very hard for them to stop. I mean, I'm glad that he's turned it around, but there was times there where, you know, I wasn't so sure whether he would turn it around.
So where we are right now is about a 10-hour day trip from Brisbane. So you're incredibly isolated from the rest of the world. So I work in timber out here and have done for the past 6 years now. But that's slowly wrapping up as more of my other dreams begin to take off. When I very first came out here working, there was definitely a sense of penance to it because I owed my parents a lot of money and had to pay them back.
It's just a different lifestyle. Nearly dark when you leave and it's nearly dark when you come back, and you got to cook a feed and have your shower, and then you go to bed and get up and do it all again the next day. And there's no other people around to cause the temptation.
I mean, there were many, many times when I thought I wouldn't be able to get through it, but it was always you and Mum and the family who I knew that loved me that kept me going.
We got through it, mate, got over it.
Yeah, my family are the most important thing in the world to me. Without them, without you, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, you would have been like grade 1 or 2 or something like that.
Yeah.
Homemade haircuts. And neither of us are smiling. Sarah's the only one that's happy.
Have you been back to Miles lately?
I was there at Easter.
I've got an older brother, Sam, and my twin sister, Sarah. I grew up outside of a small town in Western Queensland called Miles. It was really tiny, and it was a very close-knit farming community.
Luke was very sensitive and very cuddly. I'd wake up of a morning and Luke would be in bed with me, and that happened until he was probably 8 or 9 years of age.
Oh, all Mum's books in the background, they're still in there now.
I think it was instilled into us at a pretty young age that, like, reading was really important. My mum would have, bookcases full of books. Luke loved his sort of fantasy novels, you know, the dragons and all that sort of stuff.
Whenever I show him my bookcase, people, all they see is books. But for me, this is a journey through my entire life.
When I was younger, I didn't feel comfortable talking about my love of reading. I was always very secretive and felt quite a lot of shame around my love of reading because it was not something that men did, especially not fantasy.
I might have bought this and the Pokemon picture book at the very same time. I'm pretty sure I bought these at a Scholastic book fair when I was in kindergarten.
He was very full of energy, had to learn how to channel his energy, which we eventually did that through sport.
Luke's personality was very competitive, and, you know, growing up in the country, rugby league's like religion out there.
The PE teacher ran a fitness test, and Luke, in grade 2 at 7 years of age, was the fittest child in the school. And I remember his PE teacher saying to me, "We'll be reading about this kid in later life. He's destined for big things. Luke made the Southwest Rugby League team as a 12-year-old, and that was when we were first approached by talent scouts for different NRL teams. One was the Canberra Raiders.
They said, you know, we think Luke has potential. We'd love to sign him to a scholarship.
So yeah, it was a pretty big deal for a 12, 13-year-old kid from a small country town to get signed on that sort of level at that age. And yeah, it would have been like extremely exciting for him.
I started placing so much pressure upon myself. This is the thing that I said I want to do. Now I've been given this opportunity to achieve that. And if I don't, I'm a failure. And I'm telling myself these things at 12. The plan to move to Canberra for footy had been years in the sort of works. So when I was 17, I graduated school on Friday and I drove down to Canberra Monday. And then on Wednesday was my very first pre-season training session. I was straight into it. My debut game in the NRL was in 2015 and I was extremely nervous. My family came down for it and it was this is what I'd worked my entire life to get to this moment since I was a child.
Luke Bateman on the field as well. There he is with his first touch. So good luck in your career, young man.
Here's two bell hooks. Bell hooks is one of my favourites.
When I first moved to Canberra, I took a heap of books with me. But then the more that I got into footy, the less time I had for reading. And books very slowly started to slip away.
It wouldn't surprise me if Luke felt that he had to hide that from the footy scene or the footy culture. There are a lot of, I guess, unspoken rules about how you're supposed to portray yourself. And I guess reading books was kind of marked as like feminine.
Because I was around boys all the time, I would never ever pull my books out. If I wanted to read, I would lock myself in a toilet.
On Luke's 18th birthday, some of the senior playing group from the Canberra Raiders took him out to the casino. And he rang me the next day to tell me how they'd introduced him to gambling and he'd had a win and he was very excited.
So that was sort of the very first time that I actually placed a bet for myself. I won $1,000 my very first time at a casino and I was the richest man in Australia.
I had major reservations that this was what they had chosen to do with him on his 18th birthday. And I actually raised it with the Canberra Raiders, but I don't think anything really came of it. I was probably classed as an overprotective mother. In hindsight, I think my fears were very grounded.
Mate, how are we, pal? I met Luke in 2015. At that time, I sort of looked up to him thinking, oh my God, he's an NRL player. And like that was what I was aspiring to be at the time. Oh, man. Back then, I think Luke definitely fitted into the culture. It's hard to be the one that is different, I suppose.
I've kicked a few guys in my life, you know, under 12s.
We met just after he had a relationship breakup. So it was a pretty natural conversation. Oh, do you want to move in with each other? And we said, yep, let's give it a go.
Best housemate I've ever had.
My early years in Canberra were so much fun. You know, I was in this privileged position. I just joined a group of friends and I was partying a lot.
I'll get a lemon on my fitness, please, mate.
I had a lot of respect and a lot of time for a lot of the men that I played football with. But when it came to support, when it came to friendship, when it came to vulnerability, to actual connection, that was completely void.
We were winning every weekend. So
Yeah.
end of my first year in the NRL.
Yeah.
I'm earning heaps of money.
I was always competing with other men, and women were a massive part of that competition. You build up a system of values that will let you win. If the end of that means you're successful, then anything that comes before it is accepted. And that absolutely includes treatment of women.
We were going out every weekend.
And that's when you were just giving it everything. You just loved it.
Up until the age of 24, I had cheated on every single partner that I'd ever had.
One of the biggest problems that we have with men in sport is everything's handed to them on a silver platter. And I think they assume that's what's going to happen with women too. It's just another thing that they're owed, basically.
From my very first day in an elite sporting environment, gambling was just like breathing. That's what you did. Everybody had lots of money. I was earning $400,000 a year. When you're making that much money, you're so debased from reality. I played the pokies a fair bit, went to the casino a few times. But once it started to become a real problem, it was 99% on my phone, on sports betting apps. If I had internet connection, I could bet. No matter what time of day, no matter where I was, no matter what I was doing, I could gamble.
I found out it was probably an addiction when he was just sitting on the couch doing it at home while we were cooking dinner. And you sort of think, geez, he could get off sports bet today.
I was always like, oh, it's okay. I can afford this. I'm earning enough money. But it also brought me these real big influxes of dopamine and adrenaline, and having those big wins was really exciting. And it was always manageable until it wasn't. And then in the beginning of 2018, I still had, $70,000 or $80,000 in my bank account. And in the space of a month, I had nothing.
I became aware of Luke's gambling problem when he rang me and told me that he had $1,000 left in his bank account because he had gambled everything. He would be borrowing off family, friends, and he would regularly ask me to take control of his money and regularly take it back again.
The deterioration of my off-field life directly mirrored the deterioration of my performance on the field. I was playing terrible footy, I was unfocused, I was making mistakes.
Watch it in replay. Luke Bateman, head wrong position.
At the darkest period of my life, that was when I was selling household items. Like my partner would come home and be like, where's this? I would have taken it to cash converters and sold it for cash so I could go and gamble.
Towards the end of 2019, he wouldn't have any money for food. I'd put in an online order and get it delivered so that I knew that he had food. I wouldn't give him money because if I gave him money, I knew it would be gambled.
It consumed my life. Every single thing I did revolved around that gambling app on my phone.
Luke did beg me not to tell anyone else. It was very hard. When your child hurts, whether they're 2, 3, 30, 40, 50, when your child hurts, you hurt.
My mental health during this time was just destroyed, like in utter ruin. Through the worst of my addiction, I was in a long-term relationship, and the exact same harm that I was causing my mother, I was also causing my partner as well. And my partner at the time obviously left with good reason, and probably even stayed around longer than she should have too. And I was probably like in the middle of 2019. I remember I just was so done.
My phone would be on silent, and to this day I don't know why, but I woke up And I picked up my phone and I had this text message, "Mum, are you awake?" And it was 1 o'clock in the morning. I messaged him straight back and I said, "Yeah, I'm awake. What's happening?" And he rang me and he said that he'd been on the balcony thinking about jumping.
And the mum stayed on the phone with me for like 5 hours. And she just refused to get off the phone. And that saved my life.
After he rang me, I reached out to the welfare team of the Raiders. They organised a counsellor for him, but Luke was a very good actor and he even sort of managed to convince the counsellor that things weren't as bad as they were.
I had huge amounts of fear if I told the footy club what was going on. I was so scared that that would be seen as an issue, and if I became an issue, then I'd be let go.
Whack. Head clash with Reynolds.
We noticed, watching him play, that his game was going downhill. You know, so they must have seen that. So why was there no proactive action there, you know, to say, "Okay, mate, what's going on?"
I wasn't asking for support. So it's not their responsibility in many ways because they didn't even know about a lot of it. I started to abuse drugs and alcohol extremely heavily because they were the only thing that would take me out of my life. I would start going on massive benders because they would just obliterate me.
I asked to have a meeting with the Raiders, their welfare team, the coach, the CEO. They said that they would try and organise something and look into rehab facilities that we could send him to. And then COVID hit and there was no NRL.
And I started what was going to be a 3-day bender. I started in Canberra on a Friday and it finished in Newcastle on a Sunday. And something just broke within me and I was just like, I have two options. And I either end my life or I get help. And I got to Brisbane and I knocked on Mum's door and I just broke down and I collapsed into her arms. And I said, I need help. I was really struggled with the regret of what I put her through. And I hurt her so much and I put her through so much pain. But she never gave up on me. Not once. You know, many people gave up on me, but never my mum.
So he made the decision to retire and come home. And he went out to work with Don. It was a turning point that he was then out of Canberra and out of gambling, drinking, taking drugs.
And I remember feeling this enormous weight just lifted off my chest. I felt years of just this pressure. I was like, I can breathe again.
Don and I sat him down and I said, we'll pay off all of your debts. You'll go out to work with Don and you'll pay us back through work. But it wasn't a choice, it was, this is what you're going to do.
It wasn't until 2021 I made the decision that I had to go to rehab. But it took me that long to get the courage to be able to say, I need help and I can't do this alone. And very slowly, my relapses got further and further apart And it took me 4 years from rehab to get to the point of my last relapse. I actually only got internet about 18 months ago. Before that, my first 3 or 4 years out here, there was no internet whatsoever. It was really good, actually, because when I first got out of rehab and came out here, when I was still a gambling addict, it really helped me not be able to gamble because all my gambling was done on my phone. It's impossible to measure just how much money I lost, but I finished my career in $250,000 worth of debt.
You one of those was $3,000.
The amount of money that I owed my parents was $130,000.
We paid it off?
I have paid it off, yeah.
Must feel good.
It does feel really good. It feels amazing. After rehab, reading really took hold. I was doing a lot of therapy and I was starting to try and change my life. And I knew that I loved reading, I loved books, and they were all these things that brought me joy.
All right, my first ever TikTok video. I'm excited. I've just been introduced to the BookTok community.
I made my first BookTok video because I literally just wanted some friends to talk about books with, because obviously out here I don't have friends. There's no one nearby I can talk about books with.
But I'm super excited. I've got so many books from fantasy to self-development, everything that I just cannot wait to share.
So I uploaded my very first video at 8 o'clock at night or something, and then I went to bed and I expected to wake up next day with literally 1 or 2 people having seen it. I woke up the next morning and 1 million people had viewed it.
First ever TikTok video.
I'm not on social media, so I didn't even know. And my daughter said to me, Luke's gone viral.
I was just scrolling in bed and I saw an article that said why the internet has fell in love with this man. Luke was getting offers like straight away. And I said to him, I'm gonna send you a contract right away and we're gonna sign you. Because some people just have that X factor.
What does it feel like to be in this suit?
It feels different to the usual jeans and a work shirt.
You don't look styled. No. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, well, you would have known from The Bachelor, like, it sucks when you look like you're in stuff you hate.
Yes. Yeah.
Gentlemen, are you ready for this?
When he said he was going to go on The Bachelor, I thought it was a bit of a joke between him and his friends.
Ladies, I would like you to meet Luke.
I was still in a lot of gambling debt, and they offered me this big chunk of cash.
How you going, girls?
But also being in Western Queensland all the time, I really wanted a partner, but I couldn't date because I was living in the bush and I don't meet anyone, I don't see anyone.
Yeah.
This first dance?
Of course.
It was day one that he met the girl that he ended up with.
Always said that I came here with the goal of finding love.
But after the show, for whatever reason, it just didn't work out.
When I look back through my life, my romantic relationships have been some of my biggest teachers. When you grow up in hyper-masculine cultures, you indirectly internalise a lot of misogyny.
Hello, Mama. Oh.
It's not just in my romantic relationships, it's with my relationships with all the women in my life.
Hello, Beck. How are you? Yeah, really good, thank you.
And I can see how disrespectful I was and how I saw them as less than myself. So part of my addiction recovery, I'd already been writing a book. I had the entire trilogy mapped out. I had characters, arcs, everything good to go, and I'd already started writing book 1.
I first came across Luke on BookTok. Hilariously, now in retrospect, I had no idea he was like an NRL player or on The Bachelor or anything. I just thought he was like a random book nerd, which he is, I maintain. I thought it might be worth reaching out to his agent to see if he had written or was writing a book. And then he sent me a sample of his writing and I could absolutely see the potential. It certainly wasn't something he had come up with on a whim.
The moment when Anthea called me and she said, I want to give you a deal, let's proceed with this, it was one of the best days of my life. I just bawled my eyes out because I was so happy. Hello, BookTok. I just wanted to share some incredible news with you all. I've just signed a 2-book deal with Atria. So when I first announced my book deal, it received a heap of criticism and backlash.
You stepped on a lot of people's necks to get a 2-book deal. And some people just get the silver spoon.
Man was just handed a publishing deal, basically because he's white, he's hot, and he has a strong BookTok platform. Boom, here's your publishing deal.
It's quite rare in my experience to receive that kind of attention for a fantasy novel, of all things.
This is a childhood dream come true for me. What really upset me about it was that I'd spent 30 years of my life loving books, loving reading, loving writing, and then I'd finally join this community where I felt like, oh, I'm home. This is where I belong. And then all of a sudden, that community turned on me.
He, understandably was surprised by the reaction, but he handled it really well. And I think he came out the other side of it for the better.
Whenever I come back to Canberra now, I always get this little sense of anxiety. There's so many landmarks and places that remind me of those bad times. That golf club, they've got pokie machines in there, and I remember when I was 20 years old and I remember losing a heap of money.
Luke's passion, he says this to me quite a lot, he is motivated the most by being able to help people, and particularly young people and young men.
So I'm here at Parliament House today to speak on a panel about gender-based violence and the role that sport, alcohol and gambling play in that violence.
Yes, please.
All right, yeah, okay.
I don't think parliamentarians are doing anywhere near enough in terms of protecting young men or young people in general from the harms that gambling companies and gambling itself causes.
So Luke, it's really interesting to sort of hear your reflections on sort of the lessons you learned about masculinity, drinking, what it means to be one of the boys.
What I would like to see for young men is for them to know that strength is vulnerability, and their emotional worlds to be very validated.
Luke's been through the lowest of lows that many Australians have gone through, where you've hit rock bottom, and he knows what needs to change to help those people and to stop the cycle from happening again.
How did you do the crackling, Mum?
Same way I always do.
George Colin Barris told me how to do crackling. My family is so important to me, and I'm so close to my family.
Sarah, would you like to shred your lamp?
Oh, okay, yeah.
They were the people who loved me for me. Because we were part of such a small community, it was a really good childhood. We had such a fun childhood. Growing up, you didn't steal, you didn't lie, and that was instilled to me from a young age. And I've really, really drifted from that.
You remember Donnie at the pool yelling at us on the speakerphone? Luke and Sam Bateman, get to the canteen.
Luke has had to find himself, and I'm very proud of him for advocating for all the different types of masculinity that there is.
I still never had a broken bone.
He's finally got the hat on that he needs to wear, and it's him. It's the truest version of him.
I understand that I have the position, the power and the voice that can change people's lives. And I don't want to squander that. I want to have all young boys across the world reading and loving books. I really want people to be able to experience the same life-changing wisdom that I've been able to experience in books. I want people to enrich their own lives. That's what I want people to take from my story.